Welcome to the REALL Academy, brought to you each Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time by the
Systems Doctors,
Dr. Sheka Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor, best-selling authors, consultants, and speakers of Create and Educate LLC. Create and Educate LLC is an educational consultant and literary firm that provides professional development to schools and community. Their goal is to transform organizations with the REALL Resilient framework used to increase their school report card grades 2 and 3 grade levels in 1 year. REALL stands for Respect, Excellence, Accountability, Literacy, and Leadership. This framework is used to coach leaders and teachers and build student efficacy while putting systems in place that aligns the work of the school improvement, making the process manageable. We get into the weeds of work with leaders through their TrustMate Institute that you should contact them about today by filling out the contact form on their website.
It's Super Saturday, everyone. Welcome to episode 192 of the REALL Academy, brought to you by Create and Educate with your very own Systems Doctors, HERS. I am Dr. Sheka Houston.
Good morning, and I am Dr. Tammy Taylor. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome. Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning, Sheka.
If this is your first time tuning in, at Create and Educate, we create resources and experiences that educate so you can thrive through systematic processes using our REALL framework and formula.
We do this by teaching from our own lived experiences of raising our school report cards 2 and 3 levels in just a single year at the elementary and middle levels, using the framework that is rooted in research-based principles that we know work.
Yes, and we start that work with staffs and audiences that we speak to, centering our message around belief. If you do not believe that children that you serve can do great things, then you will not hold them to high expectations. So we believe that that's where a lot of the work starts, especially with school transformations. So for many staff members, they need to hear our It's Being Done message that includes our own story to get them motivated and also empowered for the work. So if this message is something that you feel like your staff needs, along with the tools and resources that we used for our It's Being Done story, then contact us by filling out the contact form on our website. And I will put that link in the comments. And also, if you don't mind, please like, share, subscribe, send stars, comments, do all of the things that the platforms do to help us build these algorithms. Please and thank you.
Yes, please. Each episode on Saturday mornings is a part of our live stream network, the Fantastic Four, which begins each Saturday morning at 10 a.m. with Principal Sean Hurt. As you can see, we're pre-recorded this morning, so I know Principal Hurt was on fire doing this thing this morning. Then following Principal Hurt is yours truly, Create and Educate in the REALL Academy at 10:30, and then at 10:55, the Leaders Mentor and the GOAT, AP and New Principals Academy with Principal Kafele, and then on Sunday, PGP Podcast with Dr. Moreno and Principal Josh Tovar. And we are elated, humbled to be a part of this Fantastic Four family.
Most definitely. So normally we would do real shout outs here, but we are going to be live in the comments due to an event today.
Yes, and please, real family members, if we say something good during this episode that resonates with you, drop a reel in the comments for us.
Most definitely. So that brings us to episode 192 of the REALL Academy, Lesson Plans and AI. And shout out to Professor Laws is what his tagline is on Facebook. He actually has been asking questions that has led to some of these topics that we've had for the previous episodes. But also wanted to shout him out. Last week in the comments, he put that he was down, I want to say almost close to 100 pounds almost. So keep
Wow.
up the great work,
Yes.
Principal Laws. We appreciate you, and still praying for your wife. I know that she is has been experiencing some health issues, so we definitely have her and you in our thoughts and prayers.
Yes,
But
bless
the past few weeks, we've been talking about MTSS, what those processes for multi tiered systems of support look like for students. And one of the questions that Professor Laws had was that, do we believe in collecting lesson plans? So we're going to get started. I'm going to share my screen here. Will be PowerPoint style, like Principal Hurt tells us when he's got his PowerPoint going. But we're going to start with reviewing. So, our framework, which you see here with the door, that starts with respect, excellence, accountability, literacy, and leadership, that's our REAL acronym, forms three systems: systems of respect, systems of excellence, and systems of accountability. So, when we've talked about MTSS, it's a part of that systems of excellence. And we've stated on the previous episodes that MTSS is a mindset. And we believe that we need to shift from looking at MTSS or multi tiered systems of support as those pipelines to refer students to receive special services to focusing on strengthening tier one. So today we're going to be addressing that question that Professor Laws had about lesson planning and talking about how we have learned how teachers could use lesson planning in order to do exactly what we've talked about for the past couple of weeks, which is strengthen tier one. So, what we've done, we took the sixth grade ELA standards, just a portion of them, on applied reading, and also some of the social studies standards. We've used artificial intelligence in order to create interdisciplinary themed project based learning. So
And
here,
can we just drop a footnote here, Sheka,
mhm,
to make sure everybody understands that for um, philosophically, whatever your belief is about lesson plans, what we're sharing today is something that can be helpful to teachers, regardless of what you think about whether lesson plans are necessary or whether there is a need to have a guiding plan for the classroom.
most definitely, and it really depends on the culture of the school too, because if you're a leader, you have a strategic plan for your school. You probably have plans for your life, for your home, for everything that you do. So to go in a classroom and not have a plan, I just my belief is that everyone needs a plan.
Definitely.
Now, a lot of people question whether or not leaders should take those lesson plans up and check them every week. I think the biggest problem with teachers when they feel like they're not being treated as professionals, and we're talking about collecting lesson plans and whether or not that should be done, is that some people use that as a just a checkbox, and what teachers see is that you require me to have something every week, but they may not be able to see that anybody has looked at them. They have received no feedback on them. So that's not best practice. So when I did collect lesson plans every week, each person on my leadership team, we were assigned to different departments. But a part of our system, and Tammy, you use the same software program as well, was that they would upload them to the software where they could see that we've checked them And I provided feedback. My team provided feedback, either questions that we had or just feedback on what was submitted, so that it wasn't a process that teachers felt like they were just jumping through a hoop to satisfy, a requirement. We were all actually looking and giving feedback, and you know going in to use them when we actually went to observe the classes. So it wasn't just a hurdle. We were using them to make sure that we were using sound instruction in the classroom.
And I think too, um, so I have a strong belief in lesson plans as well, but I think that what we have to make sure we remember as administrators and leaders in the building, whether it is you as a principal or if that is assigned to a member of your instructional team, because you can use lesson plans in a variety of ways. Like there's a plethora of opportunities to learn and grow with staff from lesson plans. But what we have to remember is we can't weaponize the lesson plans and use them against teachers, because this honestly, this, and don't get me wrong, like I am all about correct grammar and punctuation. That's like my niece Abby says, I was born to talk. I think I was born to just get in, and I just love that whole process of grammar and words, and that kind of stuff is just so intriguing to me. But in a lesson plan, that's not time to create a thesis for teachers. Like you don't want this to be so cumbersome that they think, what in the world is going on? This needs to be an opportunity for some two-way communication, as Sheka said before. And I think, as you said, the biggest part of this is what kind of culture exists within the system that's collecting them. Because I've learned that when you expect from teachers a standards-based plan, and that's what I loved when you opened up with, this is from standard whatever you just gave for ELA and whatever standard we're coming from with social studies. Because when we set the main thing as the main thing, teachers can appreciate that, because they know that you're not expecting anything other than children to be provided with standards-based instruction in the classroom. So I was told, and this was back when I was teaching, my administrator, everyone that I've ever had, believed in handing in lesson plans. And one of them in particular had a sign that was at the top of her door that said, if you fail to plan, you can go on and plan to fail. So we need some kind of guiding tool, in my opinion, to make sure that we're doing our children and our teachers justice.
Most definitely. And thank you for making sure we added the footnote. I'm like Abby. I was born to talk. So we're just showing you an example of how teachers, and some of them may already, have this skill, using AI to leverage lesson planning, to me is the next level of lesson planning. So we took those two sets of standards and prompted for there to be interdisciplinary lessons. So they've cross referenced the technology. They used every standard that was put in. So you can see different things out here. This particular week is the launch week of What Makes a Civilization Thrive. And these, again, are sixth grade South Carolina ELA and social studies standards. They're going to be learning about project based learning and, driving questions, discussions. What if you built a civilization today? So they're going to read articles and information, but they're going to be taught how to annotate as well, which is such a great skill for students and helps them to go back and learn how to take their learning and re-engage with it. But the last thing here is they're going to brainstorm some ideas for civilization startups. So teachers can leverage AI and go back, tweak things. They can find appropriate articles for the different levels of reading that exist in their classrooms. Here's another example: engineering empires. So the Roman Empire, and studying engineering is a part of the standards as well. The aqueducts, the roads, but we still have our text structure analysis and group critique sessions. So we're still using the ELA standards cross reference with social studies. But this was one thing that it did here. I'll let you go over that differentiation part, Tammy. And
Yeah, and before we look at the differentiation and support ideas, just bear in mind, she could say you would want to, do some research and see, find articles and stuff to support what AI developed as a plan for you. You also want to make sure that as you are looking at what has been created, that it does match what the skill set and level of your children are in your classroom, because you don't want to have this magnificent themed lesson or series of lessons that probably come to a full unit at a point. You want to make sure that there is space there for the opportunity to differentiate. And you're talking about looking at your ELL students. You're talking about making sure that you have found text at a lower level style to accommodate what their needs might be for them to understand those concepts that are being taught. You can have audio supports, group collaboration, making sure that they are a part of the work as it's being done on that particular unit. We also have extensions for our gifted kids. Let them research deeper into making sure that they have the most magnanimous experience that they can have. One of the things you can see here is it says they can even take it to like researching quantum cybersecurity. Like that, it's plenty for them to extend their learning to do. And then for struggling readers, audiobooks are always good. Partner reading, helping them to create and utilize graphic organizers that will help them with the vocabulary, because usually with a struggling reader, that's something that they probably are going to be a little bit off with when you've created an on grade level unit. And then always, 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 please try to make sure that you have really emphasized and taken a look at the cultural relevance of what it is you are doing. Here, with what we were talking about before, the option to explore African, Asian, Latin American civilizations in more detail and depth, and helping the kids to understand that those civilizations preceded what we know now as a way of life. So letting them understand the depth and breadth of what has happened over time, so that they can appreciate how cultures have contributed to the lifestyle that we have right now.
most definitely, I just wanted to add to that for our multilanguage learner students or English language learners. Some of them may be gifted. All
Oh, yeah,
ELL students and multilanguage learners would not need a lower Lexile or audio
mhm,
support. It just depends on where they are. So I wanted to make sure that that wasn't
definitely.
showing
And
as
it's
biased.
I think it's also important for us to make sure we emphasize with that. Sometimes, because these are children who are learning a second, third, sometimes a fourth language,
Hmm.
they may be struggling in that area. but are off the charts gifted in other things. So what we're talking about is just meeting kids where they are and accommodating them with what it is they need. That goes the same for gifted kids as well as for children who are struggling to learn the content.
Most definitely. The other thing that it generated was this student voice and choice. So it gave multiple options, created, design a meme, infographic, TikTok, or podcast episode. So that would appeal to our creative students that are in the classroom. Tammy, did you want to go over the write it since that is your thing?
Yeah, of course, I was born with a pen in my hand, not like you and Abby with the microphone. So I did want to say this too about choice boards, because this is something that many of your teachers may already be using. And this is something that I want to make sure that as administrators, we are very, very cautious about. Choice boards are absolutely fabulous. What you have to be sure you have, though, is a classroom culture where the kids are actually making choices.
Mhm.
Because what I found, and this I was guilty of thinking that we have all this work going on, and at the end of the week, I just happened to have been in there, and the teacher was collecting the assignments from across the week, and maybe a third of them had really nothing to show. And I'm thinking, now I've been in here and seen you all working. So where's your work? They had me fooled like they were working. They were working on what they wanted to work on, but it had nothing to do with the choices and options that they had been given. So that's something that's a culture that you even have to bring your parents into, so that everybody understands exactly um how the choice options work. And here, when we're talking about this write it option, I love this because you can get kids to create their own blog posts. They can create diary entries or make a travel journal, especially if they're in the group that's exploring the various civilizations. You can have them to create a travel journal where they are keeping notes on the things that they're learning about each nation or country or continent as they are traveling across these various civilizations. But the other thing that is important when you're thinking about a in the write-it aspect of things, kids, when they are writing from a personal perspective, a diary entry is something that is extremely powerful, because if a child can produce an entry for a diary, that means that they understand the content well enough to process it and it. So many amazing opportunities for students when you are creating student voice and choice in the classroom.
Most definitely. And then here they also have Build It, where they can make digital, physical models. Minecraft is allowed. My artist daughter loves Minecraft. Present it. They can host a debate. They can create mock social media profiles. Perform it. They can act out historical scenarios. They can create spoken word pieces. So also what this does, and we're wanting to show you physically how technology can be used and AI can be used to leverage and help teachers. You can prompt the AI to give you an example of each one of these to show students examples. So the technology is doing the work. The teachers using the technology to be able to leverage their time, because if a teacher had to do all of this would be overwhelming. But using AI to come up with examples for each one of these for students, it's perfect. It shows them exactly what to do. And the last thing before we run out of time, because we only have 1 minute left, this just shows you how the weekly theme is there, the focus standard, career focuses like team building, journalism, environmentalist, sustainability, digital content creators because one of the things that I prompted in was careers for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So it purposefully aligned this to be career ready for students, which automatically aligns to college because whichever careers require college, then it's preparing them for that. And then that final deliverable. So when you leverage AI for your lesson planning, what you have is more time. So, because I created an interdisciplinary unit for ELA and social studies, now that block of time for teachers really could be combined for students to be able to do that work in those classrooms, but it also leverages that time for the two periods if your students are also needing more time for other things like their reading instruction as well. So, we wanted to give you an example of what this looks like, how it can be done. This is also work that we do with teachers. So, if you need help with your staff learning what prompts to put in, how to further prompt it to get those examples, we would love to do that. This is right up our alley.
Mhm.
Any final words, Tammy?
Thank you all so much for being with us this morning. We are always humbled to have you as a real fam.
Most definitely. Join Principal Kafele next, and we will see you all next Saturday, same time, same place. And don't forget about Josh and Dr. Moreno on Sunday. Have a great rest of your Saturday.
Bye, guys.